Hello all, welcome to our webinar today. My name is Alexia and I'm the marketing manager for the construction event, the Big Five Saudi. We understand how important it is for entering new booming markets, which can often take time to research and understand. With that in mind, we've been hard at work this summer, creating a brand new webinar series to take the hard work out of researching the Saudi construction market for you. The Big Five Saudi is delighted to announce our first in the How to Trade in Saudi webinar series, which monthly will cover how to enter the booming Saudi construction market. The first webinar will be working in partnership with MEED Projects, the #1 project tracking company in the Middle East, and everything you'll need to know will be featured in one digestible session with a live question and answer at the end. I'll be handing over to Ed James now, who's the Director of Content and Analysis at MEED Projects, who will tell you a little bit more about what we'll be discussing today.
Thank you, Alexia, and hello everyone, and from wherever you are in the world. As Alexia said, my name is Edward James, and I'm the Director of Content at MEED Projects, which is a projects tracking service covering all major projects in the MENA region. Now, it's by tracking these projects that we can quantify some of the key trends, opportunities, and challenges in the Saudi construction projects market. And we'll be outlining some key data over the next 30 minutes or so in this webinar. So thank you very much for joining us. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free now if you wish to start typing your questions into the chat box. We'll make a note of them and we'll answer them afterwards. Okay, so let's go on to the first slide. This is just basically a quick summary of the projects market in Saudi Arabia. You might not be surprised to know that Saudi Arabia is the largest projects market in the GCC and indeed the MENA region as a whole. That's not particularly surprising because it has the largest economy in the Arab world and also the biggest population in the GCC. But unlike many of the projects markets and its neighbors, it actually also has a very diverse projects market. That's because it's very large geographically, and because it has large oil and gas reserves, it also has a very diverse different sectors in its projects market, ranging from mining, huge water sector, petrochemicals, all the way over to construction, leisure, mixed-use malls, and so on. And that's why, as a project market, because of its size and diversity, that's why it's normally the #1 priority projects market for most international companies looking at the region. Now, obviously, there's been a lot in the news in recent years about Saudi Arabia and what some of the big ambitious things they are trying to do there. Under the 2030 vision, which is the framework for all major future investment and projects in the kingdom, there's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars invested in new projects, and we'll look at some of those during this presentation. Of course, perhaps the most well-known is the NEOM self-styled Giga project, which at $500 billion is possibly the world's largest project, full stop. It's coming up, but it's by no means the only major project coming. We've got others like Qiddiya, which is a major leisure tourism theme park. We have the Red Sea Tourism Project and Amala also on the Red Sea. So we've got a huge, very interesting, exciting potential as Saudi Arabia is transformed and develops these new sectors for it. Overall, we've got more than $1.1 trillion worth of projects in Saudi Arabia, which makes it by far and away the largest future projects market as well in the MENA region, and one of the largest in the world as well. So let's look at some data now. Okay, so in terms of market size, as I said, Saudi Arabia has the largest future projects market and overall is the largest projects market in the region. And in terms of purely looking at construction and civil infrastructure contracts, we can see that over the last couple of years, Saudi Arabia has increased the amount of work it has awarded in those two sectors. So in 2018, we can see it awarded close to $15 billion worth of construction contracts, compared with just over $11 billion in 2016. So you can see there's a clear upward trend in project spending in these sectors in Saudi Arabia as oil prices rise, and in line with the government's vision to attract foreign investment and to develop new areas of the economy. You can see it compares favorably with the other GCC projects markets. So when we're looking at projects, clearly one of the key questions is how these projects can be funded. As I said, oil prices have been rising over the last 18 months or so, and for an economy that is very much dependent on oil sales for a lot of its economic revenues and growth, that's obviously very positive story. As you can see from this graph, revenues have been rising for the last 4 years, close to $1 trillion Saudi riyals, nearly $300 billion. And just as importantly, as the government earns more money, it's able to spend more money. You can see here the expenditure, the purple bars. You can see here how actually expenditure in 2019 under the announced budget is higher than it's ever been, except for 2014. So that means the government is earning more money, but it's also planning to spend more money, which is obviously a key indicator for how the projects market is going to perform. So take a look at some of the contracts, major contracts awarded last year in the kingdom, in the construction sector. As I said, Saudi Arabia is a very diverse market, and you get a feeling for that here in this table. You can see that we have at the top a major maritime port complex worth more than $3 trillion, which was awarded, the King Salman International Maritime Complex. We've also got the first few packages on NEOM, the Royal Residential Buildings and Facilities, worth several $100 million. We've got a lot of housing projects, as you can see here. We've got infrastructure works, we've got hospitals, schools, roads. We have a broad, both geographically and by sector, mix of different projects, and also some very, very large ones as well. So that was just a sample of projects from last year. And just to give you an idea of who some of the major clients are, the key spenders on projects in the kingdom, you can see here that most of these are public sector entities. It is a market where the government finances most projects. And this is positive because it means that there's less uncertainty around financing for these projects and payments. You can see here that the General Presidency for the Grand Mosque and Prophet's Mosque is the leading client at just over $25 billion worth of projects underway. It's followed by the Ministry of Interior, which is responsible for a lot of security projects, housing projects as well. The Riyadh Development Authority is third. It's building one of the world's largest metro networks, the $20 billion plus Riyadh Metro. Then, of course, a name we're all familiar with, Saudi Aramco, which is the top oil and gas player and producer in Saudi Arabia, and probably the largest company. It's mainly involved in oil and gas, but it also is tasked by the government to build some key construction schemes as well. It has more than $5 billion worth. And you can see a list of other key clients in the kingdom following that. So we looked at clients. What about some of the top contractors? Well, in Saudi Arabia, it's very interesting and attractive because it has opportunities available for companies from all around the world, not just those in the region or operate or which are based in Saudi Arabia. So yes, we have the likes of Saudi Bin Laden Group, ABV Rock Group, Al Saif, and Nesma, all local companies. But we also have a large number of international firms like SEPCO from China, Beijing Emirates, JMP from Greece, Bechtel from the US, CCC from Palestine, Siemens of Germany, and so on. You can see there's a broad mix of different companies involved in the construction market. So no matter where you're from around the world, whether you're a supplier or contractor, the market is open and increasingly open for investment. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times already in this webinar, Saudi Arabia has by far and away the largest future projects pipeline in the GCC states, and not just the GCC, but the MENA region as a whole, with more than $1.1 trillion of known, planned and unawarded projects in the pipeline. And of that, construction and transport make up the vast majority at more than $825 billion of future projects. Here you can see in this graph how construction there's about $675 billion of future projects in construction. So construction will be schools, buildings, towers, villas, malls, hotels, universities, and so on. So a huge amount of construction plan in the kingdom. Then we have transport at nearly $250 billion, which covers things like railways, airports, ports, roads, and so on. Then, just for curiosity's sake, we also have power as a very large sector, petrochemicals, and of course, oil and gas are major sectors in the kingdom too, as you would expect. Now, looking forward, obviously, there's more than $1 trillion of future projects. This just gives you a selection of some of the exciting projects coming up in the kingdom. We've got high-speed railway projects, we've got public transportation programs, we've got new airports, massive new city developments coming up like Al Faisal City, mixed-use projects like King Salman International Park in the center of Riyadh, tourism project like Red Sea Tourism Project, which is underway now, metros, we've got major bridge projects, causeways, we've got huge number and very diverse number of projects across the kingdom in different areas coming up, many of which are multi-billion-dollar projects. So plenty of work for everyone in the years to come. So now let's just take a look at some of these projects in more detail. So this project is called the King Hamad Causeway, and it's a new causeway, road and rail bridge linking Saudi Arabia with the island of Bahrain, the island kingdom of Bahrain. Now, there is already one causeway across linking the two countries, the King Fahd Causeway, but the plan is to make a new rail and road link on a PPP basis, linking the two kingdoms. So you can see here, if you read Arabic, you'll be able to get some details. So planning is underway for this, and we expect tenders for the contract to develop and build and finance the project to come over the next 18 months or so. Already, more than 50 international and local firms have already expressed their interest at the workshop for this project, which is a multi-billion-dollar one. Now, this is the famous one. This is Neom. You can see it's an enormous area in northwest Saudi Arabia. It's next to the Sinai Peninsula here this is Egypt here. This is Sharm el-Sheikh, the famous Egyptian tourist resort. And here's the Egyptian mainland with Cairo just off the picture. You can see this is a totally undeveloped area of Saudi Arabia, but it has a beautiful coastline with lots of coral reefs, sort of untouched wilderness and paradise there. And the kingdom is planning to invest up to $500 billion in making a completely new city tourism development, ultra-modern, AI, robotic, totally automated city and tourist destination, new industries and so on in this part of the kingdom. And you can see that is just by looking at the size of it, how much investment is going to be required. At the moment, they're building the basic infrastructure to be able to cope with a massive influx of construction activity. The new airport is being expanded. We've got some basic roads being invested in, substations, utility connections, water and desalination, and so forth, and a new causeway called the King Salman Causeway between Saudi Arabia and Egypt across the islands here. So it will allow for ease of access from Egypt as well. Now, this is just an enormous project. It's going to take many, many, many years, maybe decades to develop, and work is just about to start now. It's something that clearly everyone has to keep an eye on and should take advantage of, because at $500 billion, you're talking about possibly the world's largest project. next one. We have Qiddiya. So one of the ambitions for Saudi Arabia is to retain more of its citizens in the kingdom, rather than them going to Dubai or overseas for their holidays and entertainment. The kingdom wants to create a Disneyland-like experience, theme park area close to the capital city of Riyadh in the central Saudi Arabia, by investing up to $20 billion in building a completely new entertainment hub. So we're talking theme parks, hotels, entertainment districts, malls, and some residential and so on. And all of this will be under the Qiddiya master plan. So again, works are underway on the basic infrastructure for this. The master plan was revealed very recently, and the Saudis are looking for foreign investment and international companies as well as local companies to help come and invest and build this really exciting and transformational project in the kingdom. Okay, another project, this is called the Car Gateway. This is the King Abdulaziz Road project. This is in Mecca, the holy city of Mecca, near the Red Sea coast. You can see in the top right corner of the Grand Holy Mosque here. And the idea is to invest, again, tens of billions of dollars in building hotels and residential and transport projects on the landmark iconic road leading up to the Grand Mosque. Every year, Mecca welcomes millions of pilgrims coming to do the Hajj and Umrah, and this project is about modernizing the key infrastructure in Mecca itself. And tenders have just recently been issued for a number of building packages by Qura, which is the client on the project, and some local and international contractors are working on the basic infrastructure too. So this is another long-term massive project which is very exciting and which will offer a lot of opportunities for local and international companies alike over the next few years. Now, nearly coming to the end of the presentation, so please submit your questions, and if you have any questions about projects in general, how to do business in Saudi Arabia, how to win work there, or indeed any questions in general, please submit your questions in the chat, and we might not be able to answer all of them depending how many there are, but we'll certainly do our best to try and answer most of them if we can. Right, this is another project, another tourism project. This is called the Red Sea Tourism Project, which is, as you can guess from the name, on the Red Sea. You can see how it's going to, again, a really untouched area, beautiful beaches, great diving spots, and the kingdom here is aiming to attract both international and local visitors and regional visitors to this new project. Again, very early stages, the master plan has been revealed. Basic infrastructure works underway, but over the next 5-10 years, they're going to transform the desert into this amazing tourism hotspot. This is just one of many similar type of projects coming up in the kingdom. And then finally, apologies, that is the last slide. Again, this is hopefully giving you a good summary of some of the top line data on the kingdom, some of the key projects, something to whet your appetite and give you an idea of the size and diversity of the market, and some of the opportunities that are there. I'll be happy to take some questions now, so enter your questions. And as you can see here, I hope that you can all make it to the Big 5 Saudi event next March in Jeddah, close to some of these big, amazing projects which are coming up. And I hope that I'll also be able to see you there and meet you face to face myself. So now for the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be taking your questions. There's a large number of them already, and I'll read them out, and we will have a go at answering them. So if you just give me a couple of seconds to read through some of the questions. Okay, so let's say the first question, one of the first questions to be asked is, what do we need to do in order to be able to bid or tender in the kingdom? It's a very good question, and obviously one of the first things that the company has to consider if it wants to work in Saudi Arabia or indeed anywhere in the region. So generally speaking, if you wanted to act as a contractor for projects in the kingdom, you would need to be registered within Saudi Arabia. You need to find a local partner and have a partnership agreement and be incorporated in the kingdom. And that's normally one of the prerequisites for bidding on public sector projects in the kingdom. Some people, if you're supplying work or selling into the kingdom, then having a local agent or distributor will be able to suffice and be able to open a branch office, sales office there. But if you physically wanted to construct or subcontract in the kingdom, then you would need to be registered. There are many ways and avenues of incorporating in the kingdom. The kingdom has made great strides in recent years to make it easier for companies to incorporate. It's now a one-stop shop set up to help do that, and you can do it in a matter of days, provided you have all the right documents and papers in order. In terms of bidding itself, public sector tenders, there is a general government tender board which allows you to monitor and track some of the significant projects. A lot of it is in Arabic, and indeed some contracts are in Arabic, so you will need some Arabic language people who can help translate and tender. Generally speaking, there's a lot more transparency in bidding for public sector contracts than there used to be. There's also, of course, many in newspapers, public tender adverts, public ads for both private and public sector, which you can purchase as standard like any other country. So I hope that's a basic answer to some of that question in a basic way. Does Saudi Arabia have sufficient contracting ability to perform the work? That's a very good question. As we saw in the presentation itself, there are many local companies. They have large workloads, and it's true that there are many capable local firms. But Saudi Arabia has always been a market where international companies can come in and build, especially some of the more complex or specialized projects. Now you can do that individually, or you can do it in joint venture with a local firm. You can come in as a subcontractor. But yes, as I hope that slide earlier demonstrated, it is not a closed market. There is room for international companies to come in and participate. And indeed, yes, there are some contracts which are limited to local firms, but for many of the larger projects, there is certainly an opportunity for international companies too. And indeed, Saudi Arabia has made it clear it wishes to welcome international suppliers and contractors into the kingdom. Right. Okay, another question. Do you have details about the Red Sea tourism projects? What shall we build? What shall be built and when? Okay, so there are actually a number of Red Sea tourism projects. We saw one, which was NEOM, obviously, which is the sort of top end, north end of the Red Sea. And then we have the Red Sea Tourism Project, which is another major one. But there are other tourism projects as well. There's another one which is called Amala, which is another standalone project, which is built in a slightly further north of the Red Sea project. There's a project slightly inland of the Red Sea, which is called Al Ula, which is built near the Al Madain World Heritage Site. There's so many parts of Saudi Arabia which are unexplored, which have some real architectural and cultural treasures. And the Saudi Arabians are hoping to take advantage of this sort of untouched area to develop tourism into the kingdom. The weather there is much cooler. The beaches are untouched, and I think they see it as a great opportunity. Now, in terms of when they're, in terms of what shall be built, we're talking about obviously basic infrastructure such as roads, utilities, substations, desalination units, and so on. And then, of course, the actual tourism infrastructure itself, hotels, luxury hotels, boutique hotels, 3- and 4-star hotels. There will need to be transportation links, so probably regional airports, road connections, internal road systems and drainage systems. And across the Red Sea coastline. Now, some of it's going to be invested in directly by the government and paid for directly by the government. but a lot of it will also be dependent on foreign investors coming in and investing themselves in these projects. So there are a number of projects which are already announced, and in terms of development, they're still at the master plan stage largely. Some basic infrastructure work is underway or has been built, but the real meat and drink of these projects, the real sort of construction for the buildings themselves, is going to start over the next 18 months. So now is a perfect time to get pre-qualified with the different clients on these projects and to start preparing for many of the hundreds of different packages which will come out on them. I hope that answers that question. So another one. Is the PPP program limited to private sector companies only, or also individuals can participate and invest? That's a good question. Normally, I mean, PPP in the kingdom is still at a very early stage. Other than in power and water, it's very commonplace and normal. But in infrastructure, it's still at an early stage. And so far, it's been mainly companies that have been involved, both local and international. And I'm not aware of individuals as of yet being pre-qualified to participate. I mean, we are talking about projects requiring investments of more than $100 million. So it might be difficult for individuals, but it might well be something that, as projects get a bit smaller, that the authorities will be looking to contemplate. Common question next: what is payment risk like? Well, like anywhere in the region, it depends on your relationship with the client, who the client is, and their credit position. Generally speaking, government clients, which tend to be the majority of clients in the kingdom, pay and pay on time. Sometimes there are delays depending on the release of funding, but normally you're talking about 60 to 120-day payment terms. And there is impetus in the last year by the government to urge public sector bodies to pay more quickly, because there was a couple of years ago a bit of a backlog in payments, but the government is actually working to try and improve payment terms and speed of payment. So I would say Saudi Arabia is probably no different than other countries in the region. And of course, with whatever contract you enter into, you have to look closely at the payment conditions and determine yourself whether those are adequate for your and appropriate for your business. What are the entry requirements for the international consultants to participate in construction projects? Well, unlike contracting, obviously consulting is often frequently done in offices away from the actual project location. It's not uncommon for major engineering projects to be carried out in the US, UK, France, Far East, for example. But the kingdom has been, and rightfully so, I think, trying to urge to companies to set up more engineering centres in the kingdom in order to train and hire local nationals and build up more experience there. And generally speaking, if you want to show commitment to Saudi Arabia and that you're serious about the market and wish to remain there for a long time and benefit from the big project spending, then it's always wise to set up an office in the kingdom and show some local commitment. So depending on the client and the project, there may be different requirements, but again, it's well worth investing in incorporating on an office or partnership agreement in the kingdom. In terms of pre-qualification, generally speaking, most clients will require some sort of references over the last 5 years, minimum capital, minimum revenue, to show that that company is capable and has experience in delivering major projects around in the region and around the world. How does one get leads and participate in the tender process from South Africa? Well, without blowing my own trumpet, I mean, you could use a projects tracking tool like MEED projects to understand where the projects are and what stage they're at and who's doing what, and get contacts. But specifically, you could have someone in the kingdom monitoring the tender boards, liaising with the key clients in order to get the details of the tenders. You can track the various different tender sites, the government tender sites in the kingdom. Make sure you're qualified and expressed interest with each of the key clients, so that when they release tenders or pre-qualifications or RFIs or whatever, they can let you know. But again, it's I would say it is a little challenging to try and win work from Saudi completely externally. It's very useful to have some sort of contact base and presence in the kingdom in order to be to win work. I mean, that's the same for any country. The closer you are to the market, the easier it is to understand and to be able to track projects. Right. Okay, there's very little oil and gas, chemical, power investments in the presentation. Yes, so that's there's a question about oil and gas and chemical and power sectors. Obviously, these are very large, major sectors in the kingdom, but it is out of scope for this presentation. This presentation is looking at civil construction only, in line with the Big Five event next year in March 2020 in Jeddah. But feel free to get in touch with me if you want more information on those other sectors. So I've got a question about the entry requirements for international contractors. I think I've sort of touched on this already. In terms of being able to bid for work in the kingdom as a contractor, you really need to be incorporated there. You need to have an office and be registered in the kingdom. There are various companies that can help you register. It can be quite a complex process. There's tax requirements, there's partnership requirements, shareholdings, and so on, offices required. So there are specialized legal firms which can help you set up in the kingdom. And of course, Saudi Arabia also offers a one-stop shop for companies to be able to do that. There's the Foreign Investment Agency, SAGIA, which can help you do that as well, give you some more guidelines on that. And of course, it's well worth speaking to the Saudi Arabia consulate or embassy in your country, who can give you some tips and advice on how you might wish to do that. In terms of pre-qualification for projects, again, like consultancies, clients will be looking for certain contractors with a certain references who have built similar projects of a certain scale before, and they will want to see your balance sheets to ensure that you are financially capable of performing the project. It's normally the process that is employed. Okay, some more questions. Tender bidding status for NEOM and Red Sea project. Well, I think I've touched on these. So NEOM and Red Sea project, and Qiddiya and all these other projects will have literally hundreds and hundreds of different packages and tenders. Still at a very early stage, really at the master planning stage. And so the actual package rollout and the details of each individual package on the project program for each of these projects is not yet defined or known or been released. But for each company, the best thing I can suggest is you go to the NEOM website, go to the Red Sea project, and you register there with each of the clients as a contractor interested in the project. And once you're registered with them, they will send you more information and details of packages and as of when they come out. I've got some questions about needing partners, residence permits, and so on. So Saudi Arabia, like other GCC states, has been liberalizing its economy, opening it up, and there are now certain sectors where you no longer need a local partner. But as far as I'm aware, I think in terms of contracting, you still need a local partner of 51% majority ownership. Beneficially, you can own the company beneficially, obviously, but you still need a local partner for construction work in the kingdom. In terms of residence permits, well, it depends. If you're coming in and selling through a distributor or wish to attend a trade show, then you don't need a residence visa, because you can just get a normal visa and fly in. And the Saudis are making it easier all the time for companies to come in, invest, and operate in the kingdom by removing some of the bureaucracy, including visas and permits and so on, to try and attract more and more investment. Again, each case is very different, and I would suggest you meet a specialist on how you can set up your company, whether you should go for a partnership agreement, distributor agreement, whether you should set up directly, where in the kingdom you should set up, what type of company and license. These are the companies which can help you with. Lots and lots of questions. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. I need details of the Holy Mosque in Mecca with future extensions. Well, Saudi bin Laden has been working on this massive mega project for quite a few years now, and I understand is nearing the end of the expansion of the mosque itself in Mecca over the next year or so. But of course, around the mosque itself are several mega projects. You might all be familiar with the Mecca Clock Tower, which is an enormous 600-meter tall plus tower and complex of hotels around it. And as we saw earlier in the webinar, there's the CAR project, which is a massive infrastructure, residential and touristic project lining the road, the main road to the Holy Mosque. Mecca and indeed Medina are centers of major project hubs, in the kingdom itself. So there's a lot of work underway in those two holy cities as well. How big is the King Fahd Causeway PPP project, and under which client? So this is one of the projects I mentioned. It's actually the King Fahd Causeway is the one already existing. The one I was talking about is the King Hamad Causeway. King Hamad is the King of Bahrain. It's going to be about $2 to $3 billion, and it will be a 20-kilometer causeway, railway and road link all the way from Dammam in Saudi Arabia to North Bahrain. And it will be PPP, in which the investors will be required to finance and build the project and reclaim their investment over a period of 20-25 years by tolling vehicles and railway passengers that use the causeway. The current causeway gets very jammed at certain points and parts of the week, and this is basically about relieving pressure and creating a new alternative route to the kingdom. By the way, it's the only way to drive onto Bahrain is through the existing causeway. The client on that PPP project is going to be the King Fahd Causeway Authority. Top contractors and Bechtel consultant, Asmiel bankrupt? Yes, there's a question about Bechtel being consultant. Bechtel are both a consultant and a contractor on an EPCM basis in the kingdom. They are, for example, the EPCM contractor on the massive Jubail industrial city. But yes, they can do feed work as well as EPC and EPCM work, depending on the type of project. What about projects in Dammam? Well, yes, there are. Dammam is on the eastern province, and generally speaking, in the eastern province, it's very much an oil and gas play, investment in oil and gas and industrial projects, and mining projects in the Jubail industrial city, and also in the Ras Al Khair area nearby. In terms of Dammam, we're looking at some, perhaps potentially a metro project, some residential villa projects as well, and some commercial offices, but it's not got the same size and population as the cities of Riyadh, Jeddah, Mecca, and Medina. So there is investment there in infrastructure and some retail and leisure projects, but it's not the same kind of scale on a civil infrastructure basis or civil construction basis as other projects, other parts of the kingdom, sorry. How to find a right JV business partner to work in Saudi Arabia? Well, that's their million-dollar question, and you must do your homework. You need to look at the experience and connections and contacts of the business partner. You need to look at their track record, look at the other companies of their portfolio. Are they big companies? Have they been successful companies? You don't want any conflicts of interests with other companies they might be representing, and you want to see a clear track record of how they've acted before as a partner. Go and see their offices, meet them face to face, build trust, and you can find and just like with any partner, you can evaluate how effective they will be. Just bear in mind that once you've found a partner and signed up, it can be very difficult to exit that relationship. So really, you have to be do your due diligence and homework when selecting one. Let's have a look. Any timber supply projects? And we had another question at the beginning of the webinar about the wood market in Saudi Arabia. Well, as you know, Saudi Arabia is a desert country, doesn't have a lot of wood supplies of its own. Wood tends to be not really used that much in superstructure. It's very much a concrete cement market. But wood, there are a lot of wood is used a lot in interior designs, obviously in furnishings, and that's where the opportunity lies. But it's not a huge market for timber construction, as far as I'm aware. What's the efficient way to meet with agencies, distributors, contractors to spec in products into the projects? Well, I think the answer staring in front of you, it is something like an event like the Big Five Saudi Arabia, where you have hundreds of local agents, distributors, contractors, suppliers, all looking for international companies to bring in new and innovative products which they can use on projects or which they can present to clients. A lot of specifications on supplies, building equipment and supplies is made by the consultants. They'll also be at events, but in addition to big events in one place, which clearly a very efficient way of meeting lots of people. You can do regular business trips. The country of your nationality might do trade events, might have trade delegations. Your trade ministry or your trade office in the kingdom might be able to help, as of course can your local Saudi trade office in the consulate or embassy. There's obviously multiple ways, but this is exactly what an event or exhibition like the Big Five Saudi is all about. It's about coming in, demonstrating in your booth your products, and meeting lots of interested local buyers, distributors, and purchasers who can and clients who you can demonstrate firsthand your products. You can also get a feel for the market. Right. Right. Another question. Saudi bin Laden have around $28 billion worth of projects. How much is on hold? Those are all active projects. On that list does not include on hold or cancelled projects. Purely active projects. And of that 28 billion, a huge amount of that is actually on the mosque expansion, Holy Mosque expansion, Grand Mosque expansion in Mecca. An interesting question. Huge investment, but Saudi Arabia has only 34 million people. So do you think that all these projects are viable in Saudi Arabia? It's true that Saudi Arabia has only 34 million people, but 10, 12 years ago, it had only 24 million people. And I think that's the reason why the projects market is so attractive. It's got very fast population growth. It has an urgent need to diversify the economy. And as a result of a large population being born every year or growing every year, it needs to invest billions of dollars in schools, in universities, in hospitals, in healthcare, in transport projects in order to accommodate these extra people. So from a social infrastructure perspective, there are very strong drivers for needing to invest in the kingdom. And in terms of these tourism projects, well, a lot of it's about attracting foreign tourists and foreign investors, creating jobs for local nationals. It's about diversifying the economy away from dependency on oil and gas, and about creating these new sectors, about transforming the economy. Because Saudi Arabia is very aware that it only has a limited amount of time before we've transformed globally into a green, renewable energy, renewable economy, and they're making up for lost time. They are diversifying rapidly the economy. They're looking for foreign investment. They're looking for companies that can come in with innovative products and ideas to help transform the economy and divest into new sectors. There's a question, what is the average DSO from contractor to supplier? I have to admit, I don't know what DSO is, so I can't answer that. Perhaps you can just write out that acronym. Right, what other questions do we have? Any more from the beginning of the webinar? Going back a bit. So we've got a lot of queries from South Africa. We have, obviously, there are a number of major South African companies which have been active in the Middle East, and there is always an interest from Saudi Arabia for companies from around the world, especially from markets which may be underrepresented in the kingdom. Day sales outstanding. How much time to get paid? Well, that's a question that's very difficult to answer, because generally speaking, the supplier will be paid when the contractor gets paid, and therefore it depends on who the contractor is working with. Are they working with the private sector? Are they working with the government? Do they have claims? Do they have issues around release of funds? But so the answer is, I suppose, is when it's the contractor gets paid, the supplier gets paid. Currently, I'd say the DSO is probably longer than a lot of people would be comfortable with. But as the government is pushing for payments to be released and for contractors to be paid and suppliers to be paid, then this number is coming down. But generally speaking, you probably look at 60 to 120 days currently. Someone has said, please send me the information for the event in 2020. Well, in front of you, you can see the dates. It's 8 to 11 March 2020 in the Jeddah Center for Forums and Events in Jeddah. Getting a visa for Saudi Arabia can take a couple of weeks, so always make sure you give yourself enough time to get that visa. Also, it can sometimes flights can get full very quickly, especially around a major events where there are thousands of people who are attending, like this one. So always make sure to book your hotel and flights well in advance in order to get the best deals. So I'm sure there are some details also in this slide where you can you have telephone numbers and email addresses. There's a website for the event as well, the big5saudi.com, which you can use to get more details about it. We would appreciate if you could let us know any upcoming or ongoing hotels or any other commercial building projects in Jeddah and Riyadh. There is a huge number of hotels in particular being built in both cities. Both cities were underserved in terms of modern, up-to-date hotel projects in recent years, and so there's been a big investment in these areas. Five-star, in particular, business hotels, as the economy has grown and more people are coming into the kingdom to do business. So you have Ritz-Carltons, Hiltons, Radissons, all the Four Seasons, all the sort of major global chains and brand names of hotels coming in. So easily I'd say $1 billion to $2 billion worth of hotel projects being built in the kingdom, in those two cities, in Jeddah and Riyadh. And then commercially, well, you have one of the world's largest commercial districts being built, called the King Abdullah Financial District in Riyadh, in featuring what will be probably the world's tallest tower. And you can see that as you drive in to Riyadh from the airport. You can see this tall, very impressive cluster of beautiful buildings which have been built in the last 10 years, and of which there are more to come. So commercially, again, you've got some aging infrastructure that needs to be updated, and so there's a big investment drive, impetus for commercial construction as well, across the kingdom, not just in Jeddah and Riyadh, but everywhere. Any possibilities to send presentations by email? Well, I think everyone will get the email by a link will be sent to everyone who's registered for this presentation, and you can look at it in your own time. And I think that a video of this, copy of the video will also be made available. So don't worry if you didn't catch it all, you'll be able to look at it in your own time. What else? Any other questions? By the way, I think my details are at the, I don't believe my details in this presentation, but if you wish to email me directly, my email address is edward.james@meed.com. So it's edward.james@meed.com. And if you wish to know more about where I work, meedprojects.com, you can see a link here, as well as a telephone number and email address if you wish to track project opportunities in the kingdom. Which EPC construction companies are present in the kingdom? Well, all the major companies, Saipem, Technip, Bechtel, Fluor, Daelim, Hyundai from Korea, JGC, Chiyoda from Japan, L&T from India, for example, lots of Turkish EPC contractors, Technimont, Techfen, you name it, Technicus, Reunidas. Look, Saudi Arabia is one of the world's biggest EPC projects markets. So unsurprisingly, all the world's top EPC companies are present in the kingdom and have been for many years and have been very successful. Okay, someone's asking an interesting question about getting an invitation letter in order to get a visa for Saudi Arabia. That sometimes is the case, that you need to get an invitation in order to apply for a visa, but it's not the case for every nationality and for every country. It does depend from where you're coming from. So, as I said, Saudi Arabia is opening up its economy and making it easier for people to enter. And I think if you were to get in touch with your local Saudi consulate or embassy and ask them how they can assist in this respect, they will be able to help you get a visa, because obviously they want people to come into the kingdom, they want people to attend these trade events, and they definitely will be able to help you out. And of course, I'm sure if you were to email the organizers of the event, DMG, they'll be able to give you some tips or be able to help you out as well. Yes, that's my email, edward.james@meed.com. Someone has helpfully typed it out in chat. Correct. Don't spam me though, please. Right, okay. What will we expect in the event? I don't know, Alexia, maybe you're better placed to be able to answer that question than myself.
So the Big Five Saudi, based in Jeddah, which will be happening from the 8th to the 11th of March next year, is really just the meeting point for the construction industry in Saudi. It's where we normally have at least 200 to 300 exhibitors all showcasing their products, because the show itself attracts all the major buyers, all the people who are working on all the projects that Ed has just covered. They're looking to see new suppliers, new innovative products. Where it's our 10th year anniversary this year, we're looking into moving into construction technology. We're looking at creating some new features as well. So it really is just the place to be if you want to kind of get in touch with the industry. I know a lot of people were asking earlier about what's the best way to meet architects, what the best way to meet consultants or contractors or government entities who are all working on these projects that Ed was talking about earlier. And really a lot of these people come to the Big Five Saudi to look for new suppliers, to look for new contractors and consultants and things like that. So it really is a great place to exhibit, especially if you're on looking to showcase your projects in the region, your products, sorry. So yeah, it's the place that kind of the international local industry all come together just over 4 days. And yeah, and they network, they do business, they sell products. So yeah, that's what the Big Five Saudi is really in a nutshell.
And there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are going to be presentations as well.
Yes, so we also run several education series alongside it, where people can learn about what projects are happening, the latest in project management, the latest in construction technology, kind of everything that's happening. We have architecture talks as well. So really it's 4 days of just, not only are you learning and you're advancing your career, but you're also meeting the right suppliers and the right buyers as well.
And I'll be presenting myself, I believe, at the event. So a more in-depth presentation on Saudi Arabia. So and I hope I can meet you all there next year. Very exciting.
Yeah. I think we'll wrap that up now for questions. So like I said earlier, we're happening from the 8th to 11th of March in 2020 in Jeddah Center Forum for Events. Again, if you want to get in contact with any of us regarding looking at a space at the show, you can contact us on info@thebig5saudi.com. I believe Venetia shared it in the chat, but we can always share it again. As mentioned earlier, we'll be sharing this presentation with everyone afterwards. You'll be sent a link next week, which will have all the questions asked. And it will also have the entire presentation featured it as well. Thank you very much to Ed today for coming for the first in our series. We will also be launching this monthly. So next month we'll be launching another one. It'll be focusing on consultants opening up in the region as well. So once we have the topic and everything in place, we'll reach out and let everyone know. Thank you very much.